Okay, listen, again, same as last night, we have a program, two of our own. When I say our own, two people closely connected to us through learning and through good Yisrael. So we're going to say short. I know they say short because they said they're going to tell me short because they're busy. You have to go. Rabbi Elephant is not here. He said he has a vow to give to the Talmidim. As soon as he comes, we're going to ask him to speak. But in the meantime, we have a SIYUM to make. Rav Shraga. I just want to have one thing I want to tell you, my Hargasha. And the second is on what Rabbi Kallah said. My Hargasha was, we were singing before Ashreinu Mataycha Kenu. What an incredible thing we had today. In the morning, we had one of the Ziknei Rosh YESHIVAS, who, when he handled the Shaila and Kriyas Torah, handled it with the Briskerov. This afternoon, we had somebody half a century younger, Barach. I don't know exactly, but Barach, half a century younger. Right, Barach, something like that. And what does this prove, Rabbi Sai? It proves that the Yerushalayim created Mamish Zeh Sefer Telis Adam. And da'ir after da'ir, we have Gedolei Torah, who are Meiser, the Messiah to us, and we had a living example of that today. A living example. One of the Kan Rosh YESHIVAS, one of our younger Chashuvim, and both did the same thing, taught us Torah with a geschmack and a hava, mamish, from their pnimis and nefesh. It was very visible. Ashreinu Mataycha Kenu. Second thing I want to tell you, Shraga, I heard the following thing, and it was printed in the current Yeshurun, which I brought you as a matana. I don't know what happened to it. So I'll go back to the base medrash to give it to you. Printed in the name of Rav David Soloveitchik. I wasn't able to be his Talmud. I only met him once or twice, but I printed a lot of Torah from him recently. I became a Talmud through his Ksovim. He was very makbid as in base brisk, and everything had to be betachlis adiyuk emes. Following story happened at the Briskerov. A Gar Chash Shiva walked in. They gave him an aliyah, and he said the first bracha, and it came to the second bracha, and he said Asher bracha banu. At the Briskerov. Afterwards, they corrected him. He went up to the Briskerov, and he spent 5 minutes telling the Briskerov shtikul Torah. Why? Nishkeferlach. It's okay. You can make the second bracha, and he had riots from Teseftis, from this, or whatever. Afterwards, he left. The Briskerov turned to his children and said, is that what a person's covet can do? You can become a zoikrum. You can mamish be ma'aves to Torah akidei kach, just to justify yourself. Just for a bracha. That's what he said. Okay, Rabbi Sai, we're going to make a SIYUM now. This SIYUM is special because it's made on behalf of all the Laim Day of the KOLLEL that's been going on now, and we're entering our third year. It's going to be made in one of the pillars of our KOLLEL, Rav SHLOMO CHERRIK of Chicago. Yedidi Rav SHLOMO.
Rabbi, it's a very big schus for me to be here. I'm here to give a SIYUM on the MESECHES MOED KATAN that most of the Olam here has finished very recently. But our Chabura is special. And even though I said to them, I didn't make a SIYUM on MESECHES MOED KATAN yet. No, you have to learn another blot special for the SIYUM. This is our KOLLEL that we have, which we affectionately call the Zoom KOLLEL Yarchei Kallah KOLLEL. So I've been pleading with HARAV SHRAGA KALLUS for over a year now. How can we continue to call our KOLLEL the KOLLEL Zoom KOLLEL Yarchei Kallah? It appears that we are only going to be meeting once a year, like the Yarchei Kallah here, or maybe twice a year. We are not to be called the Zoom KOLLEL of Yarchei KOLLEL, but the Zoom KOLLEL of Yomei Kallah. Every single day, from Sunday through Thursday. I'm getting to that. Sunday through Thursday, we have a 2-hour Seder together. You know, 3 years ago, I reached, Baruch Hashem, the age of 70. So I fit in between the two Gedolim in their span of years. Certainly not in their alumnus, but in the span of years, I fit in between the two of them. And when I went to retire, my wife says to me, "What are you going to be doing all day long?" And I said, "You know, I have a 2-hour in the morning daf yomi. Our daf yomi is 2 hours long. But I need more time to learn. And now that I've reached 70, I think it's time for me to retire." So she said, "Fine. Gesundheit." So I went out to look for a chavrusa, and I looked for a sugya which to learn from. Well, what happened? COVID came. All my plans, my chavrusa that I had arranged for, and the sidorim I'm going to have, as we all know, went for naught. So what is a good yid to do in America? He goes to the website of the Aguda to find an eitzah. And I go to the website, and there I find that the Aguda under HARAV SHRAGA KALLUS is going to organize a 2-week Yarchei Kallah that we can spend together so there won't be Bittul Torah even though all the base medrashim throughout the United States are closed. Oh, gewaltig, I said to my wife. This is what I need. And so we started on this journey together, Rabbi Gottesman. You and I and about 50 other people on a daily basis, we started on this 2-week project. Well, as we all know, 2 weeks came a month. A month came 6 months. And then, of course, we're here now, having completed 2 years, Baruch Hashem, and we're on our 3rd year. Chazdei Hashem. But I have to be Makir Tov. I have to be Makir Tov to 3 individuals. 3 individuals are keeping this kollel so vibrant in the eyes and in the hearts of 50 people who listen to the MACHON shir. And when Kallah comes on, I think it's over 100. And when Mechasosher comes on, there's 100 plus who listen to the shir on a kabuatika basis. Who is this Chuta Meshulosh? None other than Rabbi Gottesman and his 2 chaverim who are miyaste this kollel. And I'm speaking about Harav Mordechai Shapiro and Rav Dr. Pesach Lederreich. Now, the Gemara we recently had tells us that the world is standing on pillars. And the Gemara discusses how many pillars. The Gemara concludes that according to one daya, the number of pillars was 1. But tzaddik yisod olam. And there is another opinion that says that the opinion is that the tzaddik is be'amunah yichya. So yisod and amunah are haynu hach. And how do we show this amunah on a regular basis? We show the amunah by giving hakar satov. When we're makar the Rabbonu Shalom, gamzu l'tova, or komando amarachman l'tava, this is our amunah. And I have to say on behalf of our kollel, a hakar satov. The Maral says that even according to the Daya, that there are 3 pillars, Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasodim, that the world stands on. The Maral doesn't explain it as a tripod like most of us explain it as, but he explains it as a triangle, where the triangle has a point on the top, which is Torah, and it's anchored by the 2 other points of Gemilas Chasodim and Avodah. And that's what our kollel is all about. We have on the pillar, Rabbi Gottesman, SHLOMO Shlita, and together with him, we have 2 people who are osek in the avodah, as well as the Gemilas Chesed, to make sure the shir comes off on time, well prepared, with all the mamrekomas that we need. And Dr. Lederreich is a doctor. Will you believe that Dr. Lederreich is conducting his business while he's helping us with the shir at the same time? Ein malach osem shtei shlichos. But Dr. Reich is above that. He's literally, and Rabbi SHLOMO will tell you, how many times on the Shir he says, is he working today? Is he not working? Is he having a patient now? In the middle of patients, he's sitting there giving us the Ma'amar Kobas for the Shir. And Rav Mordechai Shapiro, who can do without him? Rav Mordechai he's such a shenua. This is the point with Rav Mordechai Shapiro. You know how he signs on? He's such a shenua that he signs on with you, Rabbi Pearl, with your name on there. He doesn't even want to disclose his own presence there. But those are the anchors of our KOLLEL. And Amir Hashem, I hope that next year, when we make a SIYUM again, Halavai with Mashiach, we will have a new name for our KOLLEL. And I know that I've been pestering Rabbi Gottesman to come up with the appropriate name. But I encourage everyone who is thinking of retirement or in retirement to join our KOLLEL. It's every day, Sunday through Thursdays. And for those of you who don't have Daf Yomi at 4:30 in the morning, you can have a night Seder with it, Rabbi Gottesman, as well as several nights during the week, including Motzei Shabbos. And I'm running out of time to go Motzei Shabbos, by the way, in Chicago, because we start at 8 o'clock New York time. This is our KOLLEL, a marvelous thing, and it has been a real kiyum for me. And so I say that we say, Gam Zu L'Tova, we all affectionately in our KOLLEL say, Gam Zum L'Tova, and Baruch Hashem, we have this wonderful KOLLEL that I encourage everyone to partake in. The Mishnah Moed Katan ends with the famous Maimar Chazal. V'amar Rav Levi, Kol hayotzim mibeis haknesses lebeis hamedrash, zoche u'mekabel pnei Shechina. U'mibeis haknesses lemedrash lebeis haknesses, zoche u'mekabel pnei Shechina. What's Shenamar? Yelchu Michayel al Choyel, Yeroi Elohim b'Tzion. Isn't that what we're doing here this week? Aren't we all, Baruch Hashem, in this wonderful Yarchei Kallah? Aren't we Yotzei Mibeis HaKnesses? Aren't we going there for right after davening to the Beis Medrash? Then we go back and we daven and we go back to the Beis Medrash again. We eat tonight in the SIYUM, and we're going to go back and hear more Divrei Torah after this. This Maimar Chazal is really what we're all here for. And then the Gemara concludes, Omar Rechia Barashi Omar Rav, Talmidei Chachamim Ein Lohem Menucha Afilu Liolam Haba. Shenamar Yelchu Michayel Al Choyel Yeroi Elohim b'Tzion. And here Chazal are using Tzion to mean the Tzion Shamalo. We just learned in Daf Yomi yesterday the pasuk that is recited in Iyov, which says, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Asher Kutmu Levracha Hu Dechsiv. The pasuk that's brought down that was explained by other Mander Amram L'Gnai, he wants to say Kutmu Levracha Hu Dechsiv. Elu Talmidei Chachamim Shemekamdmin Atzmam Al Divrei Torah B'Lamazeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Megale Lohem Sod Liolam Haba Shenamar Nohav Yitzhak Yisodam. With Rav Kallas here, Shlita, and with Mr. Zasher, we have these Yisodos in our KOLLEL. Halavai, this pasuk should be Mikum with you, Rabbi Kallas. This is the third time I've gotten to meet you, Baruch Hashem, in person. First time I met you, I was on a toalas from Rabbi Gottesman to give you for your KOLLEL. I was doing a Gemil's Chesed, but I wasn't happy for that. I wanted to see the avoda that you do. So what did I do? You might remember. Yeah, it's right outside. That's the first time. And the second time, I went into your KOLLEL, and I was learning Hilchas Nida with you as you were mastering Hilchas Nida. And it brought back a lot of good memories when I was in the Shir of Aaron Salvation, that's all my Rebbe, and Hilchas Nida. And today, the Gewaltige Torah that you have spoken about, which echoes every single week. We can't wait for it. Baruch Hashem. the Torah, the Avodah, the Gemilas Chasadim. That is you, Rabbi Kallus. And it's the Minchas Asher, and it's all of the great Rabbanim that we were zocheh to have, even from my own shtat. Rabbi Zucker from my own shtat is part of our kollel. He comes on regularly to give shiurim, and he changes his whole schedule around, and so does Rabbi Kallus, and so does the Minchas Asher. All because Reb Shlomo has asked them to cooperate with our kollel. Please let's give a round of applause to Reb Shlomo for all that he does for all of us here. Hadrullah Meseches Moed Katan Hadrullah Chalan. Untitled Meseches Moed Katan Untitled Chalan. Lo Nisnashim Minach Meseches Moed Katan Lo Nisnashim Minan Lo Ba'am Odeim Lo Ba'am Odeim. Hadrullah Meseches Moed Katan Hadrullah Meseches Moed Katan Hadrullah Meseches Moed Katan Hadrullah Meseches Shedei Sor Shom Meseches Moed Deimon Lo Chanina Bar Papa Rami Bar Papa Nachman Bar Papa Choy Bar Papa Mori Bar Papa Rafim Bar Papa Rochash Bar Papa Zorcha Bar Papa Dobar Bar Papa Dor Bar Papa Harav No Shriv Zochov Avinu Uviyosam Chabeis Tu Yamana Kulon Achto Mesetz When Mesetz So Ein Setz So Ein Mesetz So Ein Chabeis Rakul Yodei Shmecha Dei So Tzach Shma Biyavayte Chamein Metzadach Yalom Hili Ibi So Mechugech Laman Lavosh Lo Meshkach Pekudach Yivam Chivsan Vorchat Adonai Am Dei Chugech Amen 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 Celebrate Mon Manach Panach Zenu Shazam to Chagem Yoshua Yisrael Shazam to Chagem Yoshua Koros Shonu Mashkim Mehem Mashkim Nanushkim the Rebbetor Mehem Mashkim the Rebbetor Eono Mehem 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 Manum Kam Sochor Mehem Mehem Kam Sochor on a Rotzim Mehem Rotzim on a Rotzim Chayam Abba Mehem Rotzim Mehem Shachar Shenemar Atoim to redeem Mehem Shachar Sanshit Mehem Mehem You're also moving Adonai High, Kishainu, Shoshaim, so it's our Tanu, KOLLEL. The SIYUM MESECHES MOED KATAN, Keintas, Reinu, Lahasachum, Mesechus, for Machem, Simon, Lilmodel, Amid, Shormal Hassels, Ulakaimas, Kol Direi, so Secha Biabo. Uschus ko atonoim amoroim zamidei chachomim yamo lanu ulazarenu shel tomu shatorah bipi zarenu v'zera zarenu adolam v'says kayem banu b'zalecha tachon nuchel zoch b'shoch b'chot tishmor lecha v'hakisosa hisisechecha kivi yirbu yamecha v'yasipu l'chosh nos chayim orach yomim b'mina b'smolo shel chabod anozomo yitain Adonai yivarech esamo v'shalom. Leo Yiskadesh Meirabo Yomadi Wasis Chados Yom Messiah Soko Yosol Chayom Mavne Kortov Yerushalayim Shaklon Chaklon Bagay Makap Chonon Chrom Narova Sova Chonon Yashmael Yashrei Yom Kishop Khus Khusem Koreb Chaychon Mimechon Chayed Chobeis Israel Bagalo Bisman Koreb Imrome
Okay, everybody say tonight's SIYUM and dinner is being dedicated by the KHAL family. Everybody take a seat for a second, please. I'm about to close Shraga up, but take a seat while I can just announce the names. Dedicated by Reb Hershel Kallas, the father of our esteemed Maggid Shir. I was standing there before, and one of our chaverim came over to me and said, trying to push his way through the crowd around Rosh Shraga, and he said, I have to tell you, you said Ashrei Ladatai. I went over to Reb Hershel, and I told him more than what you just said, okay? I'm not sure what he said, but we certainly appreciate it. And it's L'zeicha Nishmas, his wife's parents, Reb Afol Noach Yosef ben Reb David, and Maras, here we go. Masha, Moshe, here we go. Mesha, I don't know. It's a Shiloh, but in the Rambam and the Manik, how to pronounce this, but tell me the right way. Masha, with a Vav? Akasha. Masha, Masha Bas Ruchaim Hi Zichram Baruch. Okay, Rabbi say it's our pleasure now. The Chavana was to have Rabbi Elephant first, so we can give Rabbi Shraga a little time to relax his vocal cords, but Rabbi Elephant is obviously delayed. So without further ado, I went over to Rabbi Kallas when I was here a few weeks ago, and I said, how do you run 2 full-time kollels? He says, what 2 kollels? I have 3. That you have another kollel? What is it, at night? When is the 3rd kollel? He looks at me and says, boy, you're pretty dense. He says, you're on my 3rd kollel. So I said, you come only once a week. He says, if you knew what that once a week meant. I telling you, if you knew what that once a week means to us. I go into Shraga.
First, I'd like to thank Hashem Yisbarach for the great schus that my parents, that they could be here in Yerushalayim, Kodesh, together with their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, Baruch Hashem. And ich will invite that Bez Hashem, it should continue. I'll invite, like I said, next year, when they'll be here, there'll be a lot more Yidden here, Bez Hashem. Right? A lot more Yidden. Bez Hashem. The SIYUM MESECHES KATAN, and the SHLOMO Chagiga. The SIYUM MESECHES KATAN, SHLOMO Chagiga. It's not by chance that Rabbeinu HaKadosh put these 2 mesechtas together. SIYUM MESECHES KATAN. MESECHES KATAN is the mesechta that it's like a quasi yontif. There's something in the yontif which is lacking. It's a yontif that's not a full yontif. That's what the MESECHES KATAN is. And it culminates the Masechta Avelis, a situation which is a chatzi yontif, a yontif which is gestert, an Avelis. And as somebody that comes to a siyum in that matziv, in a matziv where it wasn't a total yontif, where yontifs were stared, and even in a situation where it comes to the Avelis, a situation that comes to Avelis, and in that situation a person is able to persevere and make a siyum, so then he's zeicha to a chagiga. That, in a nutshell, uptouches the last 2 years, which was, if you think about it, as everybody knows, that was the last 2 years. 2 years ago was right after the Yarchei Kallah, was when everything began, and 2 years of difficulty, physically, emotionally, financially, certainly, difficulties in all over, for all of Klal Yisrael, anti-Semitism, everywhere. Anti-Semitism that in the world is only overshadowed by kimat what goes on in Eretz Yisrael and the anti-Semitism. A world that in 2 years has certainly had many simchas that were a bissel gestert, and many avelis, and those that are able to persevere, and those that are able to make a siyum, they're zeicha to chagiga. And that's really what we're doing here. This is the asifa of the aguda at the Yarchei Kallah now really closes, Bez Hashem, as you see, that it's a close. It's a time of a siyum, of an oilam that persevered in Torah, and persevered through the matziv, and the perseverance was obviously through the lulei soyroschet shashuai. Everybody here became more stark in Torah, more stark in learning, and what the Aguda did in learning, in this matziv, was it turned this situation into the tachlis, we can call it kemat. The tachlis of all of the tsaris and the suffering is what's a person going to look like at the end of those 2 years, at the siyum. And that's what you're seeing here. That's the chagiga. That's the chagiga. And Lamaisa, the shiurim, the constant shiurim that go on in the KOLLEL Aguda. So you call it the Zoom KOLLEL. I call it the KOLLEL Aguda. The shiurim, it's unbelievable. In that short time, we've gone through most of the sugyas, halacha l'maisa, in Masechta Shabbos, in Masechta Brachos, in Masechta Megillah. It's unbelievable. Not to mention the Yom Tovim, and Pesach, and Sukkot, and else, but it's a mamish merit gazach. A mamish merit gazach. Rabbi Gottesman doesn't give any vacation. I got an email from Rabbi Gottesman. I don't know if you know this, Rabbi SHLOMO. I got an email about, I think it was 2 weeks ago from Rabbi Gottesman, and the email said like this. It said that the sugya de Kallah, the sugya that we're here in Yerushalayim, is going to be on Kriyas HaTorah. And so he writes like this. He writes, so we'll have 3 weeks of preparation on Kriyas HaTorah. The first week will be the week before, this is last week. This week will be the sugya de Kallah, the Kriyas HaTorah. And the next week we'll have another shir. And he writes like this in the email. I have the email, so I could prove this. He writes in the email, I'm sure you erased it by now, Rabbi Gottesman, but he writes in the email, total denial, but I have it, it's documented. It says in the email, and if Rabbi Kallas, if you want a week off, it says it in the email. If you want a week off, so take off the first week, but I doubt you're going to want the week off, and that's the end of the email. Okay. I told my chavrusa, I said to him, watch. He wants, that means 3 weeks marmekaimis for the next 3 weeks of the shiur. So I told my chavrusa that, okay, so let's write 3 weeks marmekaimis. He says, no, but he says here that maybe you'll take off next week. You take off. I go, watch. When I talk to him the next time on the phone, he's not going to remember that part. So I called Rabbi Gottesman and I said, okay, so which sugyas should we do in the 2 weeks of the Yarchei Kallah? So he said, no, it's 2 weeks that are not going to be in Yerushalayim. Then there's the one in Yerushalayim. So there'll be the week before and the week after. He forgot. I forgot. There's no vacation. No vacation. Erev Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur we gave off, but there's no vacation. And it's mamish. What? No, not Chol Hamoed. I remember, not Chol Hamoed. My family remembers also. Avada, in the sukkah, you came to my sukkah in Yerushalayim. And that incredible Kiddush Hashem, which culminates, Adarabah starts now. I'm sure, Baruch, that everyone is going to join. I'm Baruch that if there's who everyone's going to join this awesome Kiddush Hashem. And this is a Kiddush Hashem, the coming to Yerushalayim, which managed not only to open up the gates of Shemayim, but opened up the gates of Medina Yisrael. No, it's not. It's mamish real. It's the first time in 2 years. The last time the Aguda was here, it's 2 years ago, and then the gates closed. And then 2 years later, now the gates open, March 1st, and then everybody can come in. And that Avada comes from the awesome Kedusha. And you have to know what it is to be learning Torah in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, and to come and a person feels, what does it do, Sachakol? It's unbelievable. The pasuk says in the Heintige Parsha, this week's Parsha, it says, Vayakel Moshe. Moshe gathered everyone together, and they sat, they learned in Hilchos Shabbos, like we do every week. And they gathered together, and the pasuk ends that section, that Vayetzu Kol Adas B'nei Yisrael Milifnei Moshe. Everybody left Moshe. They left Moshe. The Avis Kasha, Rav Eli Lapian asked the Kasha. The Klal Yisrael came in front of Moshe. Vayakel Moshe gathered them together. So then, after they left, it should say Vayetze Kol Adas B'nei Yisrael. Period. What do you need to say? Milifnei Moshe. After they were by Moshe, obviously Vayetze Kol Adas B'nei Yisrael. Period. And then, but the pasuk says not like that. The pasuk says Vayetze Kol Adas B'nei Yisrael Milifnei Moshe. It repeats the fact that they left Moshe. So Rav Eli Lapian Murder Kazach. A person, you see him walking down the street, and he looks a little shicker, and you know where he's coming from. You can see on his face. He's coming from a tavern. He's coming from the pub, from the bar. You can see it on his face. Kafi, what he looks like, you know where he's coming from. Those that were by Moshe Rabbeinu, and that they learned Torah by Moshe Rabbeinu. So when you saw them, when they left, Vayetze Kol Adas B'nei Yisrael, you saw Lifnei Moshe. It wasn't the description of the Mokim, it was the description what was on their faces. Those that left Moshe Rabbeinu, it's Vayetze Kol Adas, it was Lifnei Moshe Dike mention. You should see on your faces. When I came tonight, it's a no to see the Avira de Eretz Yisrael, Machkim al Panecha. You see, Mamash, you learn Torah, you learn Kriyas HaTorah, the sugya of Sinai, Mamash, a reenactment of Sinai, and you see it on your faces. When you're going to walk out of here, you're going to see it's a whole different, it's a different, what you did for yourselves, what you do for your family, what you do for Klal Yisrael. The Chofetz Chaim used to say over a story. Rav Yaakov Galinsky, Zichron Levracha, said this story to Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Zal Zayin Gesund, on Purim. He brought him Shalach Manas. He brought him this story. And he said that the Chofetz Chaim every year used to say over specifically this story on Purim. What was the Maisa? Maisa was that it was in the time of the Cossacks, maybe a little high to current events, but that the Cossacks were taking over and they were taking over in Poland. And there was a certain Polish high nobleman who was running away. He was running away from the Cossacks, and he came to the point, he was ad kedei kach running away from, obviously they had lost the battle, and he was running away on his horse. And it came to the point where they were closing in, and he got off of his horse, and he ran. The Chofetz Chaim used to say over the story on Purim. And he started running by foot. He ran away, and he ran into there was a Yiddish shtetl over there, and he ran to try to find somewhere to hide. Knocked on one door. They told him, I have a family, I have a wife, I have children. He knocked on another door, and the person saw that this was obviously somebody who was not just a simple soldier, a simple Polish soldier. He told him, okay, listen, come inside, Take off all your clothing, burn them, so there should be no, and go take a talis, put it on, and go daven Shmona Esrei. He asked him, a hoiche kedusha, a lange kedusha, right? He said, go take a talis, a guy. The Polish person was a guy. He told him, take on the talis, go to the side, and go pretend like you're praying. The Cossacks came into the town. They started knocking on the doors. They knocked on his door. He said, "What us with a Polish soldier? What are you talking about?" And the person was saved. This Polish guy was saved. Kitzer, as he was leaving, he said to him, "Okay, what's your name?" He took his name and he took down, I don't know, I guess we say in America, social security number. And that was the end of the story. Okay. A few years later, he gets a telegram. A simple Yiddish person from a shtetl. He gets a telegram. The telegram said that he's being asked to come, he's being summoned to come to the Polish president. You know, I guess he's the one that knows how to change a light bulb. The Polish president is summoning him, you know. Well, which one? You know, he's summoned to the Polish president. Kitzi, he went to the Rav. They say the Rav was Chaim Oizer. He went to Chaim Oizer and he asked him, "What is this? What do I do?" He said, "I don't even have money to go to get the ticket to the Polish president. But what is this?" And so they told him, "Ignore it. Ignore." A few days later, came two Polish soldiers. And they came with a first-class ticket, the first class on the Polish Express. Yeah. And they came on a first-class ticket to go to the house of the president, to the palace or whatever it was. He came to the president. The president said to him, "Du kennst mir? You recognize me?" So he said, "No." He said, "I was the soldier that you saved. I was the soldier that you saved." He said, "And you didn't just save me, you saved the whole Poland." That was what he said. And said that one day, if you need something, now you have an address. That was the end of the story. Chav Chaim used to say the story every year on Purim. And he used to say that a yeshiva bacher was learned Torah, a Gemanda learns Torah, somebody comes to Eretz Yisrael, somebody that's learns Torah, doesn't know what he is. He doesn't know what he is. It's not just a Polish soldier. You save the whole Poland. The person learns Torah. It's not just himself. It's an oilim. It's a ganze oilim. Rabbi Yaakov Kalinsky asked Rabbi Chaim, "Do you know that story?" So Rabbi Chaim said yes. He also knows stories, right? He told him, yeah, he knows that story. He says, right, that's not the Shalach Manas. Now I'm going to tell you the Mishloach Manas. There's a part of the story that you don't know. He told Reb Chaim. What's the part of the story he didn't know? He told Reb Chaim that a few years later, there were 15 Bachrim when, now the other direction, when they were running from Russia into Poland. They were from the Vardika Yeshiva. 15 Bachrim from the Vardika Yeshiva. I don't remember if he was one of those Bachrim, Rabbi Yaakov Kalinsky himself, but he was running from Poland. They were running, these 15 Bachrim, from Ruslan. They were running into Poland. They were caught. And they were being deported. Obviously, they were running for a reason, and it was Pekuach Nefesh. They sent a telegram to Reb Chaim Oizer that anything that he could do, that they should be able to bleiben taka, that they should be able to remain in Poland. At that time, Little was sometimes Poland, sometimes whatever, sometimes everything. But is there anything that he could do? Reb Chaim Oizer sent the message to this person. He said, okay, now you have to cash in. Now you have to cash in on that promise from the Polish president. And these 15 Bachrim were saved. He asked Reb Chaim, did you hear that story? He said, no. He said, one of those 15 Bachrim was the Heilige Stipler, your father. Right? So now, it wasn't just that what was saved was this Polish general, not just the whole Poland, not just the Stipler, the whole KHAL Yisrael. The whole KHAL Yisrael. The Stipler, Chaim Kanievsky, it's the whole KHAL Yisrael was saved. And you have to know that sometimes a person, he sits, he learns Torah in Yerushalayim, he comes to Yarchei Kallah, he goes every day, he thinks, what is it that I'm doing? Now you understand what it is. It's not just a small thing. That's a very, very big thing. Vayetze kol adas b'nei Yisrael milifnei Moshe. On your faces, you can see the lifnei Moshe. You can see the lifnei Moshe. You know, halavai lost. You know, like I keep on saying it, but I mean it. Halavai be'ez Hashem. That this chus, which you see, Taka opened up the gates. It's an unbelievable thing. Unbelievable thing that the last time that the Goda left here, the gates got closed. And then it's Tzapeladik Maisa. And now they came back, and all of a sudden, while they were here, it's Avada, there's no Shaila. It's B'schus der Goda, there's no Shaila. There's no Shaila, it's Mamish. So Halavai will be Zoicha Taka to continue his Torah. Sorry?
Left the KHAL,
Yeah.
went to the airport.
So a mask.
I saw a strange thing, somebody wearing a mask.
It's Tzapeladik Maisa.
How do people remember this?
Tzapeladik
The
Maisa.
first Hafana we had, there was such a thing.
Mistama, I was guilty of making a joke about it last time I spoke. Mistama, So I tell the Olam, it's an unbelievable thing, this Yarchei Kallah that goes on continuously. I don't mean the one that came to Eretz Yisrael, that you versteh yourself, the Greiskeit of it. But that which every day you get together and learn Torah. I'm Zaycha to come in on Wednesdays. Halavai this kollel, it should be real one day, Rabbi Isa. I mean nicht virtual, it's real. Aber I mean nicht virtual. Halavai it'll be real. Halavai they'll be real. Halavai will get together. No, maybe I'll be virtual on a camera somewhere. But Halavai will be real in Taka. Halavai next time. Now, you know what? And then Taka Halavai they'll be with that. That'll be a big schos to Kabbalah lane. And it'll be the first time that we'll get Rav Moshe Feinstein on Zoom. We'll get the Heilige Ramah on Zoom. And Halavai, and like I said, and I'll be Zoicha to sit and learn with you where I belong. When Mashiach comes, Meir B'yameinu, Amen.
Bershus Choshev Tzibor. Somebody told me recently that he said there's a vad now. Somebody told me that Shalom Shadron said there's a bocher, he was a mashgiach in a yeshiva, and a bocher came to him and asked him, what time is the drosha? He says that in a yeshiva, mezok nishkein drosha, mezok ta shmuz. He said, what's the chiluk between a drosha and a shmuz? He says that a drosha is that you have one chazal and shver on another chazal, and you say a morid de keteres. That's a drosha. A shmuz is that you have a chazal and you ask a kasha on yourself, and then you don't have an answer. So we'll see. We'll decide afterwards what it is. I understand that it's a SIYUM here, or there was a SIYUM here. It's very interesting. We all know that the Ramban, in the beginning of Sefer Shmois, in his Hakdama, the Ramban really asks the question, why is Sefer Shmois composed of two parts which are not connected to each other? One part is the Geula of Mitzrayim, the Shibud, the Geula. Another half is the binyan of the Mishkan. So the Ramban says that the inyan of the Geula, or better said, the Geula is not complete until Klal Yisrael goes back to Mailas Avoisam. And the Maila of the Ovis was that they were a Mokum for Hashras HaShechina. It's interesting, Ramban. The Ramban, out of all the Mailas of the Ovis, he expresses that the Maila of the Ovis, which is the Shlemus of the Bria, is that Ovis Heinin Hamarkova, the Ovis were the Mokum for the Hashras HaShechina. And until Klal Yisrael got back to that Darga, which is the Hashras HaShechina, the Lashon of the Ramban is Adayin Hem Goylim. They're still refugees. So that's in general the whole Matorah. That means the whole Matorah of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the whole Matorah of the Shlemos. It's interesting. Not Matan Torah, not Kriyas Yamsuf. The Mishkan is the Matorah. That's the end. That's the culmination of Sefer Shmos. So that's the Matorah of everything that there should be Hashras HaShechina. If we calibrate it down further, the Ramban says in Parashas Truma that the Oren is the Iker of the Kelim because that's the Mokum of the Hashras HaShechina, Torah. But if we go further, the actual Mokum of the Hashras HaShechina was Bein HaKruvim, on the Kapiris. So it's very interesting. What was it about the Kruvim that caused that the Kruvim were the Mokum of the Hashras HaShechina? So there's a Baal Turim there. The Baal Turim says something very interesting. The Baal Turim says two things. One is Baal Turim says that there were two Kruvim. Baal Turim speaks very short. But what Baal Turim essentially is asking is, why were there two Kruvim? Why not one? So he says that the Kruvim represented a person learning with his chaver, that are noisev and noisev and learning. That's the Kruvim. That's why there are two. The second thing he says is that we know that the Kruvim, the Gemara in Sukkah, from the word rabia, a tinoik, why was it a young child? Those are the Torahs that Baal Turim is asking Akasha. Why should the Kruvim be in the tzura of a young child? If the Kruvim are the Mokum Hashras HaShechina, so it should have been, I don't know, two old men, long beards. One of them should have had a frock at least. That would have been more appropriate for the Hashras HaShechina. What's up with two baby-faced little kids? Zok the Baal Turim, Pasuk in Hosea, Ki nar Yisrael v'ayavoi. Klal Yisrael loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter loves Klal Yisrael because Klal Yisrael is a nar. So the mokum of the Hashras HaShechina, which is the shlemus of the Bria, came down to two figures who are children or a nar, because Klal Yisrael is loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ki nar Yisrael va'ayavai. That's what the Baal Turim says. What's Taka Pshat? What does it mean, Taka, that nar Yisrael va'ayavai? So there are three nekudas in why Klal Yisrael is called a nar. There's a famous, the Alter from Kelm said over for Risol Solanter, a pshat in this Balaturim, but I would be magdim to it, as Fasemes, in kama v'kama places. Fasemes says that the Lashon of nar, it's interesting, what's the Lashon of nar? So some Sfarim say that the Lashon of nar comes from the Lashon of menuar, his nari, emptied out. A nar doesn't have anything, his leidik, his rik. So Hashem says, B'Shem Techlush Harim, a different shot. He says the Lashon of nar comes from the Lashon of air, awake. The Lashon is oirus. And so Hashem says, B'Shem Techlush Harim, that what characterizes a nar is that a nar is awake, he has his chachos, he has a bren. It could be used for good things, it could be used for bad things. But a nar is hopping, a nar has a cheshek, a nar has a bren, a nar has his oirus, a nar has his chachos. It's tutzach meisim by the norm. I think that's the oimek of what Risol Salanta meant. They say over Risol Salanta, many of the Sfarim, that he said that Vibalt steht in Posuk, Chanoich lenar al pi darkoi. The reason why a nar is a person could be machanech a nar is because I'm eating on with this Fasemes. Vibalt the nar is awake, and a nar has his chach. It's not fashlofen. He's not finished yet. He's not finished his career. So nar is still impressionable. He's still open for change because he's taka awake. So Chanoich lenar is that's there's a famous zog from the Alter from Kelm. Chanoich lenar pidako gam ki yaskin leyosim imenu. He said that the pshat is not that the chinuch you got when you're young. He said that when you're young, you get a chinuch which you should blai b'mischanach even when you get old. Even when you get old, you should continue to be a nar. What's the pshat? A nar is open to change. Because a nar is not yet set in stone. A nar is not cemented yet. A nar is not a finished product. A nar is open to change. A nar is very impressionable, but impressionable can go two ways. That's the yesod of nar, because nar has his chachos. A nar is awake. Zakter is also lanter that ki nar Yisrael v'oyavoy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Klal Yisrael because Klal Yisrael is always open to change. Klal Yisrael is always open to growth. Klal Yisrael is always impressionable. They're in a state of nar. They're ready to steig. They're ready to grow. It's very interesting. We find by, if a nar means awake, so we find a very interesting lashon. By Esav and by Amalek, it says Esav was tired. It says twice. Ki oyef anoichi. And we're going to lay in Parashat Zachor, state, va'ata oyef v'yagea. It's very interesting. Whenever Amalek comes, Klal Yisrael is tired. Funny lashon. What does it mean they're tired? They're up a whole night, mishmar. What's it mean? Esav said he was tired. What does that mean? Avada, we're talking about a ruchniistic darga. And the word is that tired is the opposite of nar. Nar means I'm awake. And oyef means I'm sleeping. What's the pshat in that? The pshat is, shteitoch in Chazal, Rashi brings down that Esav comes from the word osui. Esav comes from the word osui. Osui means that I'm a finished product. Esav was born with all his evorim bishlemus. The pshat is that Esav who's gomor, Esav who's osui, there's no room for growth. He's finished. He's a finished product, and that's why he's oyev, because a person who's finished his job is tired out already. There's nothing more to do. Is the yesod of Esav is the yesod that there's no growth. The Maharal speaks out in many places that a behema is called behema as opposed to an adam, because an adam means me'adama, that is potential for growth, and a behema is bo ma. Bo ma means what they say in Hebrew over here, zema sheyesh. What there is, there is. There's no room for growth, b'chal. That's the yesod of a behema connected an adam. The yesod of Esav, which is asui, the going speaks out also in Shir Hashim. Esav is a finished product. There's no room for growth. I want to share with you the covered upcoming Parashat Zachor. There's a moiridik sfasemes, two sfasemeses, shamamish moiridik. The sfasemes says that, it says in Parashat Lech Lecha, the first time that Eibishter met up with Avram Avinu in the Torah, at least, is when he said Lech Lecha. it doesn't say where to go. It doesn't say where he should go. He told him to go. And so Hashem says, what's the shot in that? Well, what's the message behind telling somebody to go and not tell them where to go? So what's the purpose of going? So he says that the Yisod is that in Avodas Hashem, there's no finish line. There's no horizon. The word is the Avodah itself is the steiging, is the going. It's like Baruch Hu deliberately didn't tell them where to go because there is no finish line, there is no end game, wie man sagt. And that's why this Vasemes L'Shitasa, if I can say such a thing, in Parashat Zachor, says Zachor Ashal Hashem Baderech. Factus Vasemes, what's Baderech? It's a geographic term. Why is it important where it happened? So Vasemes says that Amalek always comes when you're on the way, but you didn't get there yet. And Amalek says, what's it worth? You didn't get there yet. You're only on the way. It has no value. And the Teretz is because Amalek lives in a world of Gashmias. In the world of Gashmias, it's only the bottom line that counts. It's only the finished product that counts. And by us, it's the only thing that counts is the process because the finished product's not in our hands anyway. So by us, it's only the Lech Lecha, it's only the Baderech. That's what this Vasemes says. Vasemes says, when does Amalek come? He comes when you're on the way, but you didn't get there yet because there is no yet there. But Amalek is Asui. Amalek's a finished product. Amalek's fertig. That's why he's oyev, because he has nothing to get up in the morning for. He already made his millions. And Vibalti has nothing to live for, so there's no growth, there's no process, there's no derech. Memela, that's the pshat. The pshat is that the yisoid of Klaiso, Kinar Yisrael v'oyavoy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Klaiso because they're awake. That means they're awake because they're not finished yet. Fakir, they're only at the beginning of the path. It's not a function of age. It's not a function of age, it's a function of a state of mind. And when a person's a nar, when a person's young at heart, and a person's impressionable, a person's willing to grow, that's the yisoid of Lech Lecha. So Moed Kazach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not mashre shchinosoi if a person is not going to change. That means the hashras hashchina by the kruvim is not a ceremonial thing to meet up with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If there's no purpose to it, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you're not a nar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't meet up with old men. It's a shein azach, you come together with Kutcher Baruch Hu, there's no purpose to it. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is only mashre shchinosoi in the bria only when you're a nar, and there's what to gain from it. If there's nothing to gain from it, then there's no purpose in the whole meeting, there's no purpose in the whole conference. That's the pshat that the Ramban means to say that Klal Yisrael by the Hashras Hashchina came back to Milas Avoisam. The Milas of the Avos was that they were Lech Lecha. The Avos were called Avos because they broke new frontiers. Otherwise, they're not Avos; they're just followers. The aside of the Avos was that they were constantly in a state of steiging. They were constantly in a state of Lech Lecha. They were constantly Baderech, Lechtech Acharai, Baderech, Lechtech Acharai. The aside of following the path, of going on the path, is the Avos Taka had the Hashras Hashchina because the Avos were, what does it say? It says, Yivarech es HaNa'orim. It's like this Vasem is, Na'orim is Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael is in a state of Nairus, in a state of impressionism, of Chinuch. Is the Hashras Hashchina in the Bria is the two little kids. Two baby-faced kids who are Na'orim, but they're awake, and there's what to work with, and there's what to change, and there's what to grow. And they're Baderech, they're on the path of growth. I was thinking that Efsha, that's the pshat in the second Balaturim. Balaturim says there were two kruvim because they were listening to each other. The pshat is that a person who can't listen to the other party can't grow. You're stuck in your own head. There have to be two people. You have to be able to listen to the other guy. Now, the other guy, by the way, is not such a big Rosh Hashiva. He's also a little kid. But he also has what to say. He also has what to give you. You have what to hear from the other person. The whole tzura of the Orin was about growth. It wasn't about, I saw a quote from Rabbi Yerucham. Rabbi Yerucham said a line, could be on this Rabbi Sol Salanta, I don't remember, but I think Rabbi Yerucham said a line that, but he's not interested in the guys who made it. He's interested in the guys who are growing. That's the ones that interest him. He's interested in the Na'orim, the ones who are steiging, the ones who are awake, and the entire Hashras Hashchina is only for that. There's no other Hashras Hashchina. So if I would have come on time, what I would have said was that the SIYUM, which is, I've spoken on is this a SIYUM for the virtual thing also? So, I've seen some of the guys on the virtual thing. They're not Na'orim, but they are. And there's a tremendous ruach of growth and steiging, mamash like young Na'orim. And that's where the Shechina is. That's where Torah is. That's where Hashras Hashchina is. That's what I would have said if I would have come on time. But since I didn't, so I'll add on two more things. Is it okay, Yerushalayim?
Not only that, I have a few questions for you.
You have questions. We have to bring.
Actually emailed in questions.
We have to bring in Besser for that. I only answer questions with Besser. Yeah. Anyway, I would add on two interesting thoughts. to this inyan of Norim. That's the inyan that the Hashras HaShechina comes when there's Nairos. That's the Omer Klocher of what Rabbi Sosalanta meant. That's the side of Aderech. That's the side of Osui. That's the side of Oyev. It's interesting. I saw an interesting Zach. Sfasem is a Parashas Vayeshiv says that Shtei by Yosef HaTzadik, he was a Nar. What's that? What does that have to do with anything? He says, Amori de Kazakh. There's another aspect of being awake. One aspect of being awake is you can grow, because if you're tired, because you're done, there's nothing to do anymore. But there's another aspect of being awake, and that is that a person who's awake, and we'll call it alert, is able to fight the Yetzer Hara. He says, Taki was a Nar, and he had a big ischad, he was nice and nairos. But a person who's a Nar, who's awake, also has their antennas up when the Yetzer Hara comes. So Hashem says, B'Shem Zayda, that the ability of Yosef Avinu to be oimid in the nisayon of Eshes B'Tifa was because he was a Nar, because he was awake. He had a chiyas still. So if you have a chiyas in learning, you have a geschmack in learning, if you're still steiging in learning, then you're okay with the Yetzer Hara also, because your antennas are up, and you're alive, and you have a chiyas. The third shot I saw was interesting. I saw brought down, B'Shem the Goin. The Goin says a different shot why Kinar Yisrael v'Oyavoy. So if this Fasemes, we have a new shot. Kinar Yisrael v'Oyavoy, because Klal Yisrael's they're always with the sensitivities to be Leichem B'Chemes Hashem. The Goin says a third shot why Kinar Yisrael v'Oyavoy. He says that a Nar is Kigmul Ali Imoy. A Nar, at least in the old days, didn't have their own credit cards, and they were dependent al Shulchan Aviv. He says the Yisrael of Nairus to Goin means that I'm midli v'toli on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And calls man a person is misbattled to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves him. Ki nar Yisrael v'oyavoy. I think it's richtig to say that at least the first and the third pshatim are the same. Haloi, Rabbi Seinu taught us that a person only has his chashus, calls man is mechuber to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person only has his chashus, calls man, a person is mechuber to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is afazoivat that a person is kinar yisrael, the person is mevatel himself to Kudsha Baruch Hu. Afazoivat that a person is mevatel himself to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's as much as his chachas a person has. That's the yesod that the Sfasem says that Zachar and Porah and HaChodesh follow each other. Why? Because Amalek steht in Pasuk V'hoye beis Yankov le'esh, beis Yosef lahava, Pasuk in Avadja, beis Esav lekash. Kash means the part of the wheat that has no chiyas, it's dried out, it's brittle. That's the kriros of Esav. They have no brand, they have no cheshik for anything. The fire of Yankov Avinu is the fire of Torah. So the first thing is a person has to fight the kriros and the dryness and the lack of chiyus of Amalek. That's Parsha Zachar. The Maral says that Amalek is the Satan, is the Malach HaMoves. It's not that he's multitasking. He says that it's all one thing. Malach HaMoves takes away the chiyas, and the Satan takes away the chiyas of everything. It's not three different jobs. It's all one job. It takes away the chiyas out of mitzvahs and Torah. So the Satan takes away the chiyas, Malach HaMoves takes away the chiyas, Amalek takes away the chiyas. It's kash. It's nothing left. It's brittle. It's dry. That's Parshas Zachar. Nachdem kum Parshas Porah. Parshas Porah is that we re-inject the chiyos back again. Nasa mayim chayim, the offer, the afer, which is ois gebrent already. The afer is already something which is burnt out already. It's burnt out already. And they pour back mayim chayim. Nachdem comes HaChodesh Elochem, comes his chachas, comes a new bren. This chachas comes from his Baalus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Should all be gebenged.